Greetings in the name of Yah Santiwa and Ngayami. All that is good and great, all that is blessed and beautiful, all that is creative and conscious, and all that is positive and possible. May your blessings be infinite like the night stars, and all good things be never ending. Hotep, I am Adisa Olabayo Bankole, your host to Mind Vibes, Thoughts from a Curious Mind, a bi-monthly podcast series exploring and examining social phenomenons then and now. Now, before I begin, I want to start this piece with this scene from Superfly that I'm trying to deal with what I call black mental disorders.
It's worse now than it was before. But that man owns us. You understand that, Eddie? To him, we're not real. He'll just use us and then kill us.
Man, people have been using me all my life. Yeah. That hunky's using me, so what? You know, I'm glad he's using me. Because I'm gonna make a piss pot full of money. And I'm gonna live like a prince, a fucking black prince. Yeah, this is the life. I could be nothing nowhere else. And about his killing me, shit, I don't care. As long as he lets me live to be an old motherfucker. And I ain't gonna do nothing to make him kill me now.
Suppose I could figure a way out of this shit.
I ain't going.
Okay. Now, before we begin, I want you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share. Now, this piece I am entitled for this episode of Mind Vibes, right? And I call this Black Mental Disorders, dealing with the disorientation about the understanding of their environment, praising whites for something when the reality is totally different. Now, I did this piece with a series I started back in 2019, which I called Off My Chest. But since then, some new stuff has come in, so I want to kind of deal with this topic this way. And this is, I dealt with the conversation with Eddie and Priest from the 1972 film Superfly to demonstrate the length that many of us go through to be or to falsely feel the comfort of white paternalism. However, the quote from Michael Harriot of The Roots brings the thought that I am depositing about the black mental disorder and the disorientation about understanding their environment into full focus. So let us take Mr. Harriot's remarks in his piece entitled Candace Owens, Jason Whitlock, John McWhorton, Sage Steele, and the myth of questioning blackness, quote unquote. And then there are the black people who have invested in the fictional version of America. The list of names is too long, but some of the most notable include Jason Whitlock, Candace Owens, Terry Crews, and many more. These people are not ignorant. They are charlatans. They have carved out a niche for themselves where they dutifully serve as white people's examples of the rare black person who escaped from the democratic plantation and became a quote-unquote free thinker. Their apparently lucrative grift depends on perpetuating the tall tale on which white supremacy has built its bedrock foundation. And because their myth profiting rests on this infrastructure, they shamelessly contort themselves into not defending whiteness and creating a straw man chapter in the book of bullshit that makes white people believe that the Negro community has stripped the free-thinking outcast of their black card for not falling in line. But the truth is, no one has questioned any of these people's blackness. It is a myth made for the same white people who believed in the land of the free and the home of the brave, quote unquote. Now, in 2019, when I was dealing with this black mental disorder, I was dealing with how some people in the black community tend to become apologists for white supremacy and for the white community. They tend to have this kind of disorder about who they are as black folks, not really being able to deal with that. And what I used back then the example of a young black child who was on Dr. Phil's show, and she somehow or another did not, deal with herself as being black, even though her parents are black, her brothers and sisters are black, and they understand their blackness, but she somehow or another dealt with this whole idea of being white. The same way was with the film that Dorothy Dandridge played in, the Something of Life, the intimidation, not the intimidation. The word, the film, the title escapes me at the moment. But she played in this film where her mother was black, but she was very, very light skinned, so she could pass for white. And so she had this, really disorientation about who she was. And when her mother showed up at her job, she freaked out. And that really happened in one of those daytime court shows that I saw. That really happened. This black woman really, she freaked out because her mother came to her job, And we just saw a movie called Passing. This idea that somehow or another you can escape this whole idea or this cultural reality and experience of being black. And some people go through great length. Sammy Sosa, I believe, the baseball player, did that by, taking chemicals to peel off his epidermis of blackness. And you have that in Africa, that you taking this horrible chemical. But I want to add something new, because with Mr. Harriet's piece here, what he is dealing with and what I am kind of focused on is people like Professor Wharton, who is out of Columbia University. What Wharton did was write a piece, and I'm not quite sure what the title is, about Robin DiAngelos. And Robin DiAngelo is a professor who wrote a piece called White Fragility. Now, she and Tim Weiss are what someone would call the anti-racist. And what she did was dealing with the fragility of white folks. Now, I deal with this last time. I'm going to deal with it again in what I call the white comfort zone. And this is, anytime you start dealing with, the black issues, the black experience, the whole Afrocentric paradigm and stuff, it freaks whites out, And they go through great maturations. They have all kinds of defense mechanisms not to deal with, and not to deal with what their past has been when it comes towards, or when it comes to dealing with the black reality and the black experience. Now, I did the Ode to Woodstock because I was dealing with what the white youth were trying to deal with their government and their families about their treatment of black people. But here, Wharton and people like him, like Steele and that, they become apologists towards what whites do. They don't want to make whites discomforted. But here, Mr. Wharton takes it a step further. He is cascading and voicing his discomfort against Robin DiAngelo, who is a white woman, speaking to her own people. He don't like the idea of white fragility. He somehow or another thinks what she's dealing with is somehow or another making victims of black folks. Utter nonsense. Doesn't happen. Because he and Candace Owens and them has carved out this niche where they're very comfortable with moving in their mobility within the white paradigm structure. Right? And they don't want anything to make them discomforted. They don't like a Malefi Asante with Afrocentricity. They don't like a Maulana Karenga with Hawida and his focus on cultural reality. They can't read Marema Ani's Urugu. They can't deal with the 1619 project by Hannah Jones. It makes them uncomfortable. And this is what I mean by the mental disorientation of these blacks, because they go through great lengths of trying to distance themselves from being black. Now, last time I was dealing with an incident that happened with me back in the 80s, and I was going to SUNY up in Albany, and I was taking the bus of SUNY, and there was these two sisters that were sitting behind me and a sister that was sitting next to me. And we got into this conversation, about the black experience and everything. And one of the sisters was like, how she was mortified. She was shocked. She couldn't believe it. Because, you see, Albany and Syracuse, they're some of the most racist cities in New York State, But her and her friend, a couple of nights ago, had been walking. And all of a sudden, this idiot white person calls them an N-word, yells out the car and calls them an N-word. And she was shocked. She was mortified. Because where she had grew up was in Long Island. And it was in this place where the community was basically white. The high school she went to, the elementary school she went to, all of that was white. And there was only like maybe 5 or 3% black that attended this high school and who lived in the community. So when you get that kind of ratio, most whites, when they're in the majority and they have that power, they don't feel the need to be overt racist. Covert, yes, but not overt. But nobody has ever used the N-word to her until she was up in Albany. And she was discombobulated, right? But that is because she was dealing with this black mental disorder. The same way that Eddie in Superfly with Priest, he didn't want to go, even though Priest was like, hey, I can show us a way out of this. Eddie was comfortable. He didn't care about the man using him because he felt a need to have his comfort to be assured by the paternalism of these whites that were using him. And that's here is what Mr. Wharton and them are dealing with. You know, they're comfortable because whites who they communicate with, that their circle of quote unquote friends. And one of the things that Brother Dan Juma once said to me was, a friend is someone who goes through that same path that you have. You know, two sisters can be friends. I mean, and good friends because they know each other's experience. You know, I question that whole thing about white women being friends with a sister because their experience are totally different. And in order to relate to that person, you have to have some grounding, some connection with that person's experience. What connection does a white woman have to a black woman? You know, I mean, really, what connection does a white man have to a black man? You know, I mean, that white man can zip around the highway at 90 miles an hour, and all of the police is going to do is say, "Hey, look, slow your roll. You know, you're going past the speed limit." But you find a black man going 5 miles over. You know, it's supposed to be 55 miles an hour, but he's going 60. He lucky he get out of that car alive. So how does a white man relate to that? What's that experience like? But yet you have this whole black mental disorder with many in our community trying to, you know, appease white comfort. You know, it's all about how do we make white folks comfortable in how they relate to us. Because their relationship to us has to be based on their comfortability. And that is something that we in the black community really, really have to take a look at. Because no human being deals with the comfort or being comforted. You may have, you know, opportunists, and you may have people who, you know, align themselves to power structure and stuff. But no human being who has gone through what the African people have gone through, you know, deal with the idea that they are less human than those whites. And that somehow or another, in order for them to be human, they have to make white folks comfortable, or the people who have oppressed them. And that's nonsense, because you cannot come to any real sense of your own humanity if you are constantly and continually making others comfortable. To not make others deal with the discomfort that they have put on you. You know, Tim Weiss once said in one of his lectures, it's not about guilt. Guilt is what you have done. It's about your being able to connect with people and being responsible for not only what your ancestors have done, but what you are still having a privilege to do. You need to be responsible in restoring the balance of what humanity calls for. And so I wanted to deal with this black mental disorder because I see it, you know, on Facebook. I see it with a lot of blacks who off on Whoopi Goldberg. She should be fired. And stop it. Stop it. You know, you're disassociating yourself from that humanity that all people need. And so until we can get to that, we have to really deal with who we are as a people. We have to really deal with our identity. We have to deal with our definitions. We have to deal with our, as Malefi Asante say, our agency, our cultural agency, our cultural grounding, our centering. Because until we do that, we cannot strive to deal with a more humane society. We cannot cross that bridge of humanity if we do not understand who we are as a people. All right? Now this concludes this episode of Mind Vibe. Again, hit the like button, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let's start a dialogue. But until next time, this is the Diesel Bio Bankole saying, may we all strive to bend the arc of justice towards humanity and believe that love and peace can be achieved. Madasi P.